Yeah. Welcome to the block where the real ones speak. Sports Talk 49, no cap, no weak. Real facts, strip the fluff, no spin. If it's hot in the league, yeah, we tap right in. Overreaction, yeah, we lean all in. One play, one take, let the chaos begin. From the mic to the screen, bringing truth, no fantasy. Hosted by Blake Anthony, voice of the fan, no fallacy. Fans yelling loud, opinions collide. Love it or hate it, ain't nowhere to hide. You're the master of life, how you use it is key. Sports Talk 49, now lock in with me, yeah. Lock in with me. Yo, welcome to the block where the real ones speak. Sports Talk 49, no cap, no weak. Real facts, strip the fluff, no spin. If it's hot in the league, yeah, we tap right in.
What up, everybody? Welcome back to another session of Sports Talk 49. Always here on every streaming platform. I'm here with my brother from another mother, my mother from another mother, or call him uncle, whatever you want to call him. Big game, James Cannida. Of course, you know James played in the NFL for several years, mostly with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, played college football with Nevada, which his son now goes to, which is pretty cool.
Yes,
We'll talk about that a little bit later. You know, with college football coming around the corner. And we're going to talk about a couple topics coming up. James, what up?
Man, Blake, thanks for having me on, man. Been way too long, dog. Been way too long.
Yes, I know you've flourished. Remember, you used to send me messages all the time on how to work this shit. You know, you're like an old head trying to figure out new tricks and stuff. Now I remember you was about to give it all up, and then you just went like full swing. I was like, look at this guy.
It's crazy, man. What AI can help you do with planning out stuff.
Technology can make you look real dumb, or you make you look real smart.
Yeah.
So, where you want to start? It's a lot to talk about.
Man, you know, you've done a lot of good stuff, putting stuff out, and I know you hit on it. And I really loved your Vita Vea piece the other day when you really broke down what he does up front and how he handles things. So, I mean, we really haven't had a chance to talk about it to where he said he's not budget, he wants to be traded. And Jason Light said they're not entertaining trades for Vita Vea, man. So I really wanted to hear what you thought about this whole situation, you know, talking to you, not just checking out your content.
Well, you play defensive line. You know how important that is as far, especially the interior, keeping the backers free and clean, and while closing the pocket and things like that. I've always been a fan of always having a strong defensive front. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have finally invested in that after many years of just putting Band-Aids over. You finally loaded up and spent some money on that defensive line, especially with the acquisition of Ruben Bain. You'll be able to pick up out of the top 10. But you're just talking about a pay bump. That's what you're talking about here. And when people talk about contracts, like you're already paying them just under $18 million.
Right.
And I think you'll agree, and I think anybody will agree, there's not 17 better defensive tackles than Vita Vea in the league. Not 17. No way.
Yeah.
I get the age. He's 31. But he's not even talking about like years. He's just talking about being paid what the average is, and that's just another $6 million you're talking about. I just don't understand why they're so reluctant to give him that. I would understand if he fell off last year, like you saw a huge regression or degression from him last year, and you didn't. You got uptick in reps on the field, snap counts, and the play. Everything went up, but so I don't understand where the hesitation is. Is it just because the Bucs want to have the leverage? Because they have all the leverage in this contract negotiation. Only thing Vita Vea can do is hold in or hold out. But at some point, rubber is going to meet the road. Yeah. You know that when it comes with contract stuff, you're going to start and end up forfeiting some of your money. And don't nobody want to do that when you start missing games and mandatory practices. That stuff adds up quick. You get to the $2 million range you owe in freaking fines and stuff. Yeah, that reminds me of the Chris Jones situation. Remember when he held out at the beginning of the year, ended up owing $2-3 million, but ended up getting that back later on after they won the Super Bowl.
Right. it comes down to like I try to look at this from two different perspectives. Like I always tell everybody, like the former player me is, you always want your brother to go get that money. You want him to go get that bag. You want to be able to take care of that family long term, and especially someone that deserves it. From a front office standpoint, you can see. I think I can see why they want to play hardball or why they're reluctant. But at the same time, hearing what that number was that you said, because in my mind, this is my thing. I never heard any set number disclosed. So I was like, he must be asking for something, astronomical. And so I thought it had to be something that was just absurd to what, and I know the market's just been set crazy with Jalen Carter and then I always forget my man's name in Tennessee.
Dexter Lawrence.
Well, Dexter Lawrence got his up in Cincinnati, but your man with the Tennessee Titans. I don't know. Not Simons.
Simmons. Jefferson.
So, I mean, I knew the market was crazy. And I was like, 31, Vita's not going to get that same type of money. But now hearing that that's not even what he really wanted, and he just wants that average. I also don't think that some people place the right value on Vita Vea. And I say that because we always talk about edge and pass rushers. And if you remove him from that Buccaneers defense and that Buccaneers middle and what he does, it puts a giant hole in that defense. And for me, Jason Light and Todd Bowles are in a win now mode. They don't have the luxury of waiting to see what might happen if Vita doesn't play, because to me, if they don't have success this year, both of their jobs are on the line. So I would think, with that being said, they will figure out a way to get things done and make sure Vita Vea is on the field once the season kicks off this year.
Yeah, and as you see from that clip, that's just hard to replace. Like I said, we just mentioned Savasier Dennis was able to go free because two guys had to take Vea. Right. Granted, he missed the tackle, but Vea was able to shed the blocker off and make the tackle himself for a TFL, a tackle for loss. You cannot replace that. There's nobody on that roster that's going to replace that. No. I'm sorry. And there's a lot of guys I like. Let's see what K Park got and all them. Nacho and all those guys. There's nobody that's going to replace that kind of usefulness on this defense. And in that Todd Bowles scheme, the nose tackle is prevalent.
Hey, do you think they think that they're going to get the production from Alshon Robinson? Because I hadn't heard his name a lot here in camp. We know he's a big plug play guy in the middle. He did decent in Carolina last year once he got there. But I'm like, they must see or think something else is coming that we don't know about or what we haven't heard about. Because to me, like I said, honestly, I thought it would be a no-brainer. Once they had the conversations in minicamp, I honestly thought something was going to get done before we even got to this point in training
camp. I don't know. I said Ashawn wasn't, that dude in Carolina where they were just relying on him to make plays. He was a part of the defense and does his job well. Obviously, he's still able to get another contract on another team, but that's a lot to ask for an outsider pretty much just to come in and be 1A, 1B to another guy that's done that for the past 7 years.
Right.
And just ask him to be that guy. I don't know. That's a lot. That's a tall glass to order. And here's the other part. In football, you got to always think that somebody's going to be out for some part of the season at some point. What are you going to do if he goes down injured? Somebody rolls up on his ankle. Somebody hurts his shoulder. Then who comes in after that? What is your answer then? You know what I'm saying?
Right. I feel you, man. I feel you. But yeah, the Vita Vea contract makes me feel uneasy, and he seems to be determined to be like, but like you said, the rubber will meet the road soon. If they're not going to trade him, it's something's going to have to be done, because if not, he's going to lose too much money over the long haul. But something needs to get done.
Like I said, it's not even astronomical. It's not like you're giving them another $15 to $20 million. You're talking about a $6 to $7 million pay bump to bump you to the average. Like I don't understand what's going on. And then you talking about trading them for what, a third-round pick for that guy, for a third-round pick? That's not doing nothing for me. A third-round pick.
That's a slap in the face.
That's doing nothing for me. You might as well hold on to him for a third-round pick. to go to somebody else so they can go on a run in the playoffs and win some games that they, with a Pro Bowl defensive tackle. Like, you don't win in that situation trading him for anything lower than a high second round pick or a first round pick. You're not winning.
Is there a player out there that you would be like, you know what, let's make this happen? Is there any player you could think of that if they came to the Buccaneers and offered it, that you would be like, you know what, I like this, let's go ahead and make this deal?
Only things I look at that is either a quarterback or another defensive tackle that you can look at, and nobody's going to give up their starting defense.
Yeah, that's the same thing I said. I was like, there's no one at that position that a team's going to be willing to trade away. Like, you're not going to get a Myles Garrett, Jared Verse type trade in that position for Vita Vea. So if that's the case, what are you waiting for, and what are you really going to get of value that's going to make you excited about trading away a piece that I think is, you look at a franchise player that Vita Vea is. He's a game changer along the defensive line. And I know I've seen the craziest of all comments, man, on social media and all the the Buccaneers posts between fans of why he should stay and why he should go. And I was just like, I don't understand what these people see that I don't see it. And I feel like I'm someone that knows this game pretty well.
I just say the
keep around.
I'll say it just like this. We've said it plenty of times before. Fans are fans and players are players. We look at things differently. You and I doing this media thing, you got to change your mindset from an athlete to an analysis. And I struggle hard with that sometimes. And you got to look at it as an analytical standpoint of how it looks like that and things of that nature. Like you said, as a player, you always want to make the most money you got. You want to be paid for your value. You want to be recognized for the work that you put in. But, when you look at things on a broad spectrum at a different light, I can see why some people might have different opinions because they might not have the insight and the knowledge that we share.
Yep, facts.
That's pretty much everything on Vita Vea. There's not much else. Like I said, we'll see what happens with these preseason games coming up in August. We'll see what happens.
Yeah,
they travel up. They travel up to New York to do live practices with the Jets. In your opinion, do you think these live practices play a lot? Do they help out a lot? We used to like them back in the day because it was a change of the monotony of just beating up on your own teammates. It's a different look, and in all honesty, the joint practices used to go by quicker, and the periods were a little bit shorter. So you're going against other people. You're going to give a little bit extra effort, but at the same time, you knew that it was going to be a little bit more of a condensed practice because you're going to still you practice with them, you play a game against them, in a preseason game, and then you go on back about your business. So it was a cool time to do it and get out there and talk a little smack. Somebody asked me what's one joint practice I remember, and I tell everybody it was my rookie year where we're down in South Florida. And I'm at the water cow, get something to drink, and I hear somebody go like, "How's it going, Rook?" I look up and it's Dan Marino. I'm like, "Holy shit, this Dan Marino right here standing next to me." Like, damn, Dan Marino.
Like I forget I'm playing like I'm in the league too. I'm like, oh shit, that's Dan Marino. I'm like, God damn, I'm on the same field as Dan Marino. So, when I was with Tampa, we did most of our joint practice with the Dolphins. So, but it was a cool, good time, and it was just a way to break up that monotony of getting after your own guys all the time, man, and be able to go out there and turn it on and for the fans and put the high energy out. And I always looked at it as an opportunity to audition for another team as well. If things don't work out in your current squad and your club, you practice well enough to where you make that coach on the other sideline remember you.
It's funny you said something too that made me think about it. If you don't know what James is talking about, where he's talking about he's getting water, there was this little PVC pipe, and all the water comes out of there, and it spurts out, and everybody just goes and you pick one and getting the water out. That's what he's talking about. And then you look up and you see Dan Marino there,
just chilling.
Yeah,
just chilling.
I used to think about it, and you're still soaking wet from practice, and then you're still not trying to get your feet wet from the water spraying out there. trying to dip your head there and get the water.
Yeah, you want to get wet everywhere else, but you ain't having them soggy, wet feet, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. So
you can tell we're old. They would have no idea what that is.
No, not like that. Now, not every day nowadays are people walking around with their own personal Gatorade bottles with their names.
Oh, yeah.
And stuff that the trainers hand to them. I was like, what the hell is going on? But they had alumni week, man, this week, and I was mad because Buccaneers do a pretty good job of reaching out to everybody and letting them know different dates that they want to come to camp. But me being in Texas, man, I didn't have a chance to get back and get out, to practice like I wanted to, man. But
he's up in Nevada. He was at Nevada.
No. The Buccaneers this past week they were doing Alumni Day. You know what I'm saying, for vets or former players to come out and catch practice. But they usually do a pretty good job. Like if I'm ever in town, if I call and let them know I'm there, they hook it up where you can come by practice and everything else. Man, I'm just halfway across the country, so it makes it a little bit tougher for me to get back when I want to.
Yeah, it's a little hike for you, not too far, but a little bit. Where were you at? Baker. Something about contracts. You might as well just keep going with the contracts.
Yeah.
Mayfield, where you stand with that?
This is my whole thing on Baker. Baker said he felt disrespected because they didn't offer him anything more than 2 years. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like I asked the question, what else is out there that's better than what we've been getting from Baker Mayfield free agent wise? And if we're still like a top, say, the NFC South, middle of the NFC when it comes to playoff time, we're not going to get a great draft pick. So any quarterback that would be of high value in next year's draft, unless the Buccaneers made a drastic trade to move up, you're not going to land one of those quarterbacks. You got a guy that's taken to the playoffs 2 of his 3 years that he's been there. Was second in touchdown passes last year, 11th. I think QBR. Go ahead and extend him, lock him up now to where it doesn't cost you later. But I think their whole mindset is, it's just me, that if nothing is done, he has a decent year, we'll go ahead and hit him with the franchise tag. So they can still hit him with the franchise tag. So I think the Buccaneers are just playing like, we still got him if we want him and keep him. We can tag him if we need to. But to me, I think give him the 3rd year that he said he wanted. He wanted at least 3. Give him the 3rd year with what the guarantee is or what you might end up paying in the average in 2 years for a franchise tag anyway. Give him the 150, whatever, 100 guaranteed backload, some of that more guaranteed monies over those 3 years of the contract. And then you got yourself a quarterback until you can go get your Jordan Love like the Green Bay Packers did while they had Aaron Rodgers locked up.
Mm-hmm. The Baker, it's such an interesting topic to talk about. Like he said, he feels disrespected. He feels like he earned. Before I say how I feel about all of it, I don't think he even have this conversation right now if he didn't just have the collapse that he had last year in the second half of the season. Warranted.
Fair assessment.
A lot of it's due to him. Recklessness. Leonard Fournette, I wish I had that clip. I'll play it when I do the editing on here. Leonard Fournette said this. He said, dog, you got to take care of yourself. He said, we need you out there. He said, the way you playing, you're reckless with your body. He said, and they said everything that everybody said. We love the competitor. We love the chippiness. We love all that, but that's also what we hate because what started the shoulder thing is was it the Rams or the Lions where you're lowering your shoulder into a linebacker, and it wasn't like to win the game or you're putting yourself at a risk where you needed a big first down. It was just in the first quarter of the game.
Play, yeah.
And you put yourself at risk, and in long term, it hurt you the whole season. Yeah. And it affected your play long term, and you couldn't blame nobody but yourself because you did it. And then the shoulder popping corners going out of bounds and stuff like that. It's just the little dumb stuff. And Baker says, well, I feel like we need an uptick in the energy level and stuff, so I do stuff like that. Like, but you see, and he knows that. Like, he had a smirk on his face and all that. Like, well, you see why they're hesitant to give you that money.
Yeah, that makes sense, bro.
You said it yourself. That's what they're scared of. They don't want to be stuck like what Cleveland was stuck with you. the first time where they paid you, where you effed your shoulder up and you was nowhere near the guy you needed to be. And they had to hold on to him. They couldn't trade him because his contract was too high. I don't know if you remember all that situation with all that with Cleveland, where they ended up just releasing him. But that's what happened. He was banged up. They were stuck with a huge salary and a quarterback that couldn't perform because his shoulder was tore up. They don't want to be in that situation. And you want a 4-year deal, and the Bucs want to give you at least 2. That's what I said originally. 2 with a 3rd-year option. That was always my thing. Okay. He wants 4 years, and he wants $50+ million. Now I get his point. They get the salary goes up every year, and it'll end up being about the average anyway. I get all that, but if the Bucs wait now, that you're going to end up paying now or later. T-Crash said earlier today on his show on YouTube, he's like, if you wait, then what are you paying the $60 million? Are you going to be able to sign Yaya and Cody Mauch next offseason and things like that? I don't know. I said a lot. What do you think about all of that?
I mean, you have some good points. And, yeah, when Baker was 6-2 and in the MVP talks, it was a lot of love for Baker Mayfield. And yet coming to find out the drastic decline came because of the shoulder injury and things that he did do himself. I like the fire he plays with, but at the same time, you made me think about Fournette's statement about that is a risk take. You know, you don't want your quarterback being the risk taker. I don't want you being the hype man and risking long-term injury because you're trying to spark a flame or a fire in your team because we need you long-term. And it showed that once he could not play to his full potential, that, you know, the Buccaneers suffered drastically from it by that big demise and fall they had in the season last year. I still think that a 3-year deal should have been offered from the Buccaneers, and I think it could have been structured the right way. But at the same time, if they're wearing that hat, like you said, and thinking long-term longevity, that we don't know if we can get 3 years out of him because of the way he plays and sacrifices his body, then I think it might make a team hesitant. Or I don't know if Jason Lighton really I think they called it, well, he's going to keep negotiating with us. And Baker came to camp. He said he's done talking about it. He just wants to play, and he wants to play like on a prove-it deal. And if you believe that much in yourself, let's see it. Let's see it. I can respect it. I just don't want that to be the one thing that's holding up progress of this team advancing and getting better next year, is because you didn't take care of business with the quarterback right now. And, you know, the quarterback situation is always one that's it makes the most news because it's the one position that everyone knows. It's the face of the franchise, whether it needs to be or not. I wanted to just be about, you know, there's so many other things that I want to see go right for Tampa this year that I don't want to have to hear about. They should have taken care of Baker Mayfield, or, you know, the headlines that we started getting this year on ESPN early on is all about Baker Mayfield not being signed. And it's just like, I don't want that distraction going in with everything else that's going on with the roller coaster this team has been on in the last few seasons. I just want that done so they can go out, take care of business and get things done. And Baker Mayfield's made the situation a little bit tougher. I think both parties, actually. I won't just say Baker Mayfield, but, you know, obviously, like I said, behind closed doors, there's a lot of things that we don't know that goes on that, you know, we'll hear about later for sure.
Yeah, definitely that. And you know, he said he was disappointed in both. He said with the years and the amount. And my other thing, like I said, I don't think it was my reel or whatever last time I was on. I was like, he was adamant about saying, "Well, I don't want to talk about it anymore. This is it." And then here you are in another interview talking about contracts again. So it makes me think, like, you I don't know if you're just trying to put pressure on the Bucs to sign it. You know,
I think it's a little bit of that. And my whole thing too is you can agree to disagree with how things are done, but when he first came out with the initial report that first day of camp, I was just like, I get it. But you said some things like, I remember being in camp and Derek Brooks didn't report that first day of camp. That Sunday we first came in and we had meetings and everything. And Brooks hit us all up and was like, hey, look, man, I'm holding out. And then, you know, Rich McKay was like, you know, Derek, you know my rule. I don't negotiate with guys that hold out and don't come to camp. You know, we didn't do hold-ins back then. This is some brand new shit right now, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm going to go, but I ain't going to do nothing. I'm holding in. That didn't happen. But Brooks came. deal got done, things happened. Nothing was ever said publicly about the back and forth in negotiations. And so for Baker to come out and say some of the things now, I believe he may have made it where Jason Lighton and be like, you know what, out of spite, we definitely not going to give you nothing. We definitely going to make you prove it. And worst case scenario, we hit you with a franchise tag next year. So I don't know if he made the situation better or not by the stance he took coming out and speaking on something that initially should have been house business.
Yeah, and I think that's an area. That's another area too. Light has been failed. Well, it's two things I want to say. Light has failed to really address in securing stuff like that for the future was the quarterback position. For the longest, they don't really invest like in somebody up and coming as a backup or a progressional player or anything like that coming up on the front, like you had Teddy Bridgewater last year, who was out of football for years. I get it. He was going to be a league minimum and he wasn't going to cost you much trying to save yourself money.
Right.
But now you got this kid Daniels, that the undrafted kid out of Kansas State that you're investing in. And you got quarterbacks coming out, at least 10 QBs coming out in this next draft. Are you going to take somebody there, to try to maybe have something in the future, not just to say you're going to take Baker's job, but I think quarterbacks should sit for some time to learn how to be a pro in the league. And the other part I wanted to say is, why do you want to have to be one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league? Why do you have to have that? I said, you just had Tom Brady here who was not the highest paid quarterback, came in and won a Super Bowl and allowed the team to sign players that you need so you could be successful. Why do you have to be paid that high for those, good years that you had? I'm not going to take anything away from. Why do you have to be paid that? You don't have to. It's a choice at this point. Wouldn't you want to have your guard back, next year if you don't make that money? Wouldn't you want to have Diaby back? Wouldn't you want them to sign somebody else that they need? You know what I'm saying? What do you think on that?
Yeah, but honestly, Blake, think about it. I think that's a lot easier decision for Tom Brady to make because of the amount of championships he already had for one, where he was in his career when he came to Tampa, willing to sacrifice that and knowing what he had around him and he could go win. I still think Baker, and let's think back to who Baker Mayfield was before, because Baker was a guy that a lot of people didn't like coming out of Oklahoma. You know what I'm saying? Like the way he was, the way he acted, the way he planted flags on people's sidelines, was always brash and cocky and had a demeanor about himself. So I think he still has a little bit of a chip on his shoulder to where he needs to be treated like that guy so he can prove that he is what he was supposed to be when he got drafted by the Cleveland Browns, right? So I think there's a little bit of that in him of why he feels like he wants that contract that he wants. Or is he willing to sacrifice some of that money if he got the long-term deal and not quintessentially the highest paid? I think what he's asking for really just falls in line to how messed up the QB market is now.
Yeah.
And like I said, we always talk about it. Deshaun Watson with the Cleveland, and the quarterback market hadn't been the same since then, and Kirk Cousins made it worse. And so everybody's going to fall in and want to get a little bit more than, what that last guy got. And that's generally how it works in these contract talks. But, Brady, more mature in the situation, already proved himself as being the best quarterback in the league for decades, you know what I'm saying, over a long period of time, willing to come in and do what was best to try to get that championship. Baker's not there maturity-wise or career-wise. Like I just think in his brain, he still wants to be that guy that he didn't really manifest to be right out of college when he got drafted by the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, he's that guy with a chip on his shoulder. I guess he feels like that's what he should get. I can't argue that. That's him. If he feels like he should get more money and stuff like that, I'm just putting that question out there. Like, why don't you want your guys to be able to be signed back? You know what I'm saying? But like I said, that's his choice. That's between him and the Buccaneers. That's just my point to talk about.
Yeah.
But that's up to them at this point on what decision they will make. I think that's it. We pretty much hit everything on that with Baker. And much else that ain't already been said.
Yeah, I mean, everything else we all know about. It's all right from here on out now. It's just speculation until something gets done or
which ain't gonna happen until at the end of the year. So
yeah,
he said he's already.
So you don't think he'll fold, or you don't think they'll offer something more like what he wants? Or?
He said he's not talking to him, so he said he's standing on it. So we won't see till the end of the year unless one of the sides. Well, they ain't gonna be one of the sides. It's gonna be Baker's side decides they want to talk contracts because he said it's his side that shut it off. The Bucs didn't say they shut off contract. Yeah, just like Vita Vea. Vita Vea didn't give a timeline. He just said he wanted to be paid average. He never gave a timeline. So the only person that said they're done talking is Baker.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah,
we shall see.
Camp. You already talked about Hurst. Steve Smith was the first one to say that. I played that clip a while back about what Steve Smith said about Hurst pre-draft before anybody saw before the Senior Bowl and all that. Said this kid is nasty, and he said the reason why is because the way he can adjust in air at that size and have speed. And he could have went to another big school that he decided to finish his career at Georgia State along with Bucs undrafted offensive tackle Ben Churika, Nigerian kid. Mm-hmm. They were both at Georgia State together. I mean, what's your thoughts on Hurst?
I like what I see in Hurst, and I'm not going to lie. It wasn't until right before the whole draft process where his name came up, and I saw some highlights of plays. And I was like, damn, this kid can play. And so for him to fall to the Buccaneers when he did, and I saw what he was able to do, I was like, man, this is a good pickup. I'm interested to see how he plays and to see some of the plays that he's been making in camp. I love it. He plays highest point on the football. Like you said, like he's gonna go get that rebound like basketball at his highest point. He's gonna position his body, protect the ball, block the defender out, and go get it. And he's made some great plays in camp, and it excites me again because you think about what we lost and Mike Evans leaving, but to still feel pretty good about that wide receiver room with Godwin and McMillan and Abuka, and then now him coming in and Ted John. I mean, you still have a lot of pieces and a lot of people that you can distribute the ball to that I believe are all playmakers. So I'm excited to see how this transitions into the season.
Absolutely, a lot of mouths to feed out there. You have a lot of options, and unlike years in the past, I've said this several times on old podcast shows of mine, you finally have a system of wide receivers who have different skill sets. Bucs used to have the same kind of skill set receivers. You have several guys on a roster with different kind of skill sets, different sizes, different speeds. You actually have a plethora of options that your coordinator can either use it as advantage or don't use it and be a disadvantage. So that's a good thing to have.
Right.
But granted, like I said before, tight end is probably one of the weakest positions on the team. Love Greg Otten, but he don't scare anybody. Nobody's game plan for him. But those are good things to have. And here's like my proposal. I said it the earlier year. Well, let me say this part first, and then Ted Hurst pick reminds me of Chris Godwin. I think I was probably the only person way back. I said the Bucs were the second round pick was Chris Godwin. Why I said Chris Godwin? I said the guy plays like a professional out there at Penn State. Mm-hmm. He was cooking in that bowl game. He was cooking Adoree Jackson, who ended up going first round in that bowl game when they played against USC. Mm-hmm. So the dude plays like a professional. He's not a burner. He just knows how to get open, and that's the key part of being a receiver.
Very well, yeah.
The speed doesn't mean that's why everybody gets so caught up in 40-yard dashes. And I post this every year on Facebook. I said, name me any of the players that were the fastest in the combines who still play in the league to this day or who were superstars on their team. And the list is very small. Chris Johnson being one. I can't remember. There's one other one. I said, and that's far in between. So the speed doesn't mean anything. Right? It's everything else. And some of the best athletes and receivers and people at skill positions didn't run the fastest 40. They ran the league average 4.5, sub 4.4s. They didn't run anything blazing speed. So it tells you right there that certain intangibles don't always translate into success in the NFL.
Right.
Oh, and the other part I said, well, people wanted Chris Godwin. I wouldn't be mad if it happens, but it's a business. especially with all these contract talks. So just hear me out when I say this, Jay.
Uh-huh.
Chris Godwin is getting an astronomical contract that he got last year, where he could have signed for more into the New England Patriots. It would be a crime if the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, traded him, being that he took a discount to come back to the team and stuff like that. But let's just say Chris Godwin has a dominant year this year. I'm talking 1,300 yards, 9-10 touchdowns, comes out and balls out. Even 1,300, 12, 11, we'll just say. And it'll be coming in, I think it's one more year, I think, in that contract. I think it was one more year, I believe, till the contract or somewhere, wherever it is. Would you be willing to trade Chris Godwin to a team that's wide receiver needy, getting draft collateral or whatever it is? Puka Nacua, his contract is coming up to the end. Not sure if the Rams are going to keep him. You could add Puka Nacua in replacement of a younger version of Chris Godwin to your roster. You just give him the same money you gave to Chris Godwin that you traded away, or just take the draft picks. There's a lot of options that you could do with that. Do I think that should happen? No, I love Chris Godwin, but it is a business, and that's things you got to look at. What do
you you about to catch hell after that one, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think you have to look at it and go, you know what? Let me listen to what may come in, because if the wide receiver room is deep now, we know Chris Godwin makes that room even. He's one of the reasons we talk about that room being potentially one of the best wide receiver rooms in the NFL, right? I think you would have to entertain it. I think that you would be, as a general manager, you would be stupid not to, especially if Emeka Egbuka emerges to be the receiver that we think he's going to be. We just talked about Hurst, right? McMillan's coming back from the scary neck injury. He was showing promise before he got hurt last season. And Tez Johnson, with his speed and what he can do, man, I think that if someone called you with something serious and you say, but hypothetically, he has a 1,300-yard year, which you could really ask for him, hell yeah, I wouldn't be mad at all.
Here's the big part of that too. Sorry to cut you off. I forgot to add. I said, remember the paid part? I said that didn't take the huge contract in New England.
Yeah. He gave it the hometown discount.
So he's not overly priced either.
Right.
So it's a strong possibility. Something to pay attention to coming to the end of the year, see how it happens.
Now the bigger question would be like, how jacked up would that be at the Buccaneers to do that?
That's what I said.
After he took the whole discount, really. And we know it's all hypothetical, but I think that's a question that you have to ask only because it's something serious to consider, and it's one of those things to where it's like, okay, I would definitely flirt around with it if something came in, but no, we don't want to see Chris Godwin go anywhere. I know I don't want to see that happen. I want to see him ride things out, and hopefully he has a good enough year to where, that would be a good problem to have.
As I said, just something people to pay attention to. If it happens, he just comes out and just this monster this year.
Blake want to hit y'all with that. I told you.
something to look forward to. An older receiver, not a whole huge, massive contract. Very productive. Somebody that's on a win now mode. Once a veteran receiver.
Right.
Something to think about. We will see how it plays out at the end. If this conversation even means anything. If he comes out and doesn't play well, then it is what it is. If he comes out and plays really, really well, let's revisit. Just trust and believe. I'm gonna play this video back. We got this conversation. Just believe we're gonna play this back. That's what I was just thinking about that with that Godwin thing. They said McMillan. We'll talk about DBs a little bit. The Bucs signed 2 DBs, I think, within the past 2 weeks. They just signed this kid. I think they picked up. I can't remember his name. I have to look it up when you start talking. And then Melifonwu, the other Melifonwu's brother that played for Miami, 6'3" guy, can play safety, corner, a Todd Bowles kind of guy, tall, lengthy, can play 2 spots, which tells me that Ben Morrison is unavailable again, and he can't make the roster in the tub. This guy's Ben Morrison has been injured since Notre Dame. He's looking to be very unreliable. I mean, what do you think, or what do you know about this whole thing? What do you think?
It's almost, you almost forget that he was a second round draft pick, right? And drafted as high as he was because he hasn't been available.
He has high ceiling.
Yeah, Jacob Parrish, his good thing is he played a lot last year, a little bit banged up, but they said he's been looking good in camp. You know, the one person that gets me all the time is Zion McMillan did not finish the season very well last year, but right now he's looked good in camp. But, you know, that's the one position group that always made me nervous about what they could or couldn't do. And to see, you know, I guess, excuse me, I'm all over the place. But the one thing that made me feel a lot more comfortable is knowing that I think Antoine Winfield Jr. is back to being in the form that he was when he's an all-pro safety. I think that helps take some of the pressure away from the communication and stuff that we get from that veteran leadership from him. But yeah, we're going to need someone else to step up because right now Benjamin Morrison has not been reliable at all since being drafted out of Notre Dame. And I know they made that pick knowing that the secondary needed to be addressed, you know, last year when they drafted him. And right now it's a big hole in the defense.
And, you know, everybody in this world today wants immediate satisfaction right away. And Ben Morrison's time might not be his time yet to fully flourish, especially being injured. You're not going to do much like that. Parrish is looking to be playing above where he was drafted at right now. He's really playing well. He's still going to be that nickel guy, can play outside, you know, get those opportunities. Those guys were forced to who was it, Baker or somebody said that. They said a lot of those young guys were forced into positions that they shouldn't have been in due to injuries. And in a way, it's good and it's bad for them. It can either do one or two things to you. And I'm sure you've been in them situations, James. That ass whooping could do one thing, could spark something inside of you like, yeah, I need to step my shit up.
Yeah.
Or it can be like, damn, can I really play with these guys? Like, and I'm sure you've seen guys like that where they got that defeated look on their face, and they know they just got dominated by another man, and it hurts people's egos. Like I said, does one or the other. It either lifts you up or it'll knock your ass down. And it depends if you're gonna get up.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Something that will be done, and I still like. I mean, there's a lot of people in that back part of that defense that I like. You know, I'm still a Taki Smith fan. Antoine Winfield Jr., Jacob Parrish, like I said. Zion McCollum has shown flashes, but then he's shown also flashes of being inconsistent with his play. And it's the depth, you know, losing Dean. It makes you, you worry a little bit about, you know, where things are going to come from, how people want to play, and what's going to be done. But I think that's just, you know, once these preseason games start, I think it's very interesting position to watch to see how they play, how they gel, and to give me a better feel, a better idea of what we're going to look like going into the season.
It's communication. It's going to be the same thing with D-line. You know that. It's all about communication, especially back in the secondary. Hey, you got deep thirds on this play. Hey, if he squats on this, you got to jump that route. I got you over top. Hey, play inside leverage in case he reruns this route. Yeah, it's all about communication and execution. And that's what Bowles tries to tell these fans. They act like they don't want to hear it because they don't understand. And I get like their analysis, their fans, like that's stuff you can't understand. I can sit up here and tell you, like the 4th and 22 that everybody gets mad about. You think they didn't come out and tell them that? You say you play to the sticks and let them catch it underneath? Any defender tells you that. I said you cannot give up the play to the sticks. I said you let them catch it under, you rally and tackle, especially on a 4th down. Instead, you do the opposite. You play the short guy and give up the guy at the sticks. You did the opposite. I know nobody told you to do that.
Right.
And that was just the brain fart in the game. Like that's the communication versus execution. There's two. They're two different.
Right.
But yeah, it's just the secondary is something they're gonna look at, and we'll get into that last. You know, leave the defensive line, but better defensive line will help your secondary. They can be more aggressive, knowing that the quarterback's not going to have an astronomical time.
Yeah, a lot of time to throw about. Yeah,
trust me. Richard Sherman will tell you that. Anybody will tell you that. When I know my defensive line is going to get to you, I can be aggressive as hell. I
can take a lot more chances. Than I normally wouldn't take because I know that ball's coming out a little bit quicker. That quarterback's not going to have time to go through his entire progression. Yep.
And that's why I try to piece the fans. That's why I tell you I struggle all the time versus being a player and being a guy that's supposed to be like an analysis and guys that they try to talk about it, because some people just don't understand, and it frustrates the shit out of me sometimes. But that's reality. I tell them, I say just like this. Let's just say you're playing corner against a Pro Bowl wide receiver. And they're like, oh, like Justin Jefferson. Oh yeah, they're being soft and all that. But like, absolutely, I'm being soft because I know my defensive line ain't going to get to the damn quarterback.
Right.
And Justin Jefferson's going to fly right by me.
Right.
So it'd be easier to contain him underneath than to let him blow by me for a touchdown. You think defenders don't think like that?
Yeah.
Absolutely, they do.
And a lot of people, like the Buccaneers had 32 or 37 sacks last year, but still had the third highest blitz play calls in all of the NFL. That means they were still blitzing, giving up that one extra man in coverage, not actually getting to the quarterback, putting even that much more pressure on the back end. But yet, that was the only way they felt like they could get close to the quarterback was to call the blitz. So you never that's never a good feeling or a good situation to be in, where you know you have to call blitzes to get to the quarterback, yet you still those blitzes still aren't landing.
And you're on an island. And you're on an island. You missed the tackle. That's it.
Yeah, that's not a good feeling at all.
And not even just DBs. How about a linebacker? You may be a run-stopping linebacker. You may be good in pass coverage in the zone, but I'm not good at man coverage. Now, Bijan Robinson flies out the backfield, and I can't get to the quarterback. Now I'm left in space with Bijan Robinson.
Right.
You know that old phrase: if he's leaving, he's leaving.
Yep.
And that's exactly what he did to a lot. Or Jabari Gibbs. Yeah, good luck getting to those guys out in space, with nobody else out there to help you contain them. That's what, and I'm glad Light finally addressed the defensive line and let Bowles get all those guys, get Muhammad. I think Anthony Nelson, honestly, is going to be the odd man out this year with all the talent. I mean, I'm sorry, Nelly. I'm sorry. It's just you helped them the best you could, but they brought in better guys.
And David Walker is who I'm interested in seeing.
That's what everybody's watching.
I was excited about him when they drafted him out of Central Arkansas, and just when he got hurt last year, I was like, damn it, because I did a piece. He was on my draft gems, and I did that before they even drafted him. So when they got him, I was beyond excited, and to see some of the things he's done in camp and being able to look like he's running around good, moving good, redirecting, coming off that ACL. It's exciting because think about it. It's like you get Ruben Bain Jr., who I did not think was going to be there. I had him higher than what the Bucs picked him. When he fell right there, and the Buccaneers had to get him because I thought he was going to be gone. And I thought Messidor was going to be the one that would be available. And then I like Bain a lot more in that position anyway. So that being said, you get him. You add a David Walker to give you some depth. And, you know, Yaya coming up on a contract year where it's going to be put up or shut up. He's going to have to go get it done. I think we can finally generate some rush without having a blitz. And if that's the case, then I'll feel a lot better about that secondary.
How many times you heard when you're in those defensive rooms? I said, your coach told you I said, we need to get pressure with 4. I'm sure you heard that.
We did that. Yeah, that was a must. That was a must because, you know, Monty Kiffin, when he dialed it up, it was every once in a while. It wasn't a lot. We did blitz a lot. Our 4 could beat your 5. Is what it was. And yet I know this is an odd man front, but at the same time, the way they line it up, the way they bring that other guy in the box, rush off the edge, and move that end inside to a 4 and that back her up on the edge, you still got to win. They're still going to be in 4, getting rushing against 5 with those other guys in coverage. And it's something that I think is going to have to get done, but I feel better going into it right now. If everybody just knock on wood that we can stay healthy, that the Buccaneers can stay healthy, that I'm excited to see what it's going to look like this year.
And why is it so important to get to the quarterback with 4? Again, it's simple math. Every offense has 5 eligible pass catchers, which is every guy on offense is responsible for 20% of the play.
If you give me that extra body, I can drop back in the coverage and give me that extra defender. It helps my secondary out a lot because not one guy is going to be on an island, or they're not going to be able to find that weak spot in the secondary, because that's what happens most time. When you have to bring that extra defender to put that rush on, that good quarterback is going to be able to look and find that weakest point in the secondary, or in coverage. I shouldn't even say secondary, just in coverage, because it could be a linebacker cover, having to cover and pick up that back or anything else out the backfield. And they find a way to expose it. So that's what you want to eliminate. And if you can bring rush 4 and get that extra guy in coverage, it takes a lot of the pressure off because you eliminate that mismatch most of the time.
Essentially, you're going 5 versus 7. 5 pass catchers versus 7 guys in coverage. You should win. You should win that matchup. You should win that matchup. That's just I'm not even talking who the personnel is, just basic math.
That's just math is math, and yes, sir.
Two. You have a 2-man advantage, and I know a lot of people don't think about it like that, but that's why it's important. 5 versus 7, not 5 versus 5 or 5 versus 6, because you got a blitz or whatever like that, and you got guys on islands taking chances and stuff like that. That's why rushing with 4 and getting to the quarterback is important. And I did this on purpose to make it to the end to talk about defensive line, because I know that's a position you specialize in. Let's talk about something else. I don't know if anybody's asked you this question. How long are your arms? Do you remember how long they measured you at the draft at the draft?
I can't remember what it was, but I don't have very long arms.
Yeah. So were you considered a guy with short arms?
Yeah, but back when I played, especially being interior defensive lineman, it wasn't as big an issue as it is for those guys that play on the edge. But I think it's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard of in my life, because you look at guys like John Randall that played this game very well, that dons a gold jacket. Aaron Donald will wear a gold jacket. One of my former teammates in Indianapolis, Dwight Freeney. Dwight Freeney wasn't very big at all. Dwight Freeney did not have long arms.
Undersized, short arms.
And you watch some of the things that D. Free was able to do coming off that edge. He was very, very smart and calculated his pass rush very well. He was great at counter moves, leverage, and everything else. And I know where you're going with this, and I think we got a guy that's going to be able to do the same thing.
Yeah, because everybody, and you know how Tampa area, they like to spin the narrative. They had one rep where, not Cody Mount, but Luke Gedeke, he got the best of Bain on a play, and then Bain beat him 2 plays in a row. Because I think Bain, and you know what Bain's moves remind me of? Bain will tell you he gave up football and wanted to play basketball. So he kind of Euro steps the offensive lineman and beats. I mean, everybody's got their own style of how you want to do it. Some people are chop block, or chop. They like to do the chop technique. Mm-hmm. Some people somebody like to bend. Some people like to bend the corner. Some people like to spin back inside. Everybody has different moves. It really doesn't matter. Ghost rush or whatever. Everybody has their different style, and you just to have those plethora of moves. That's what makes you a great edge rusher, because you're not going to play the same type of pass protector every week. Right. And I bring that up for a reason, because we mentioned Yaya, and I love Yaya as a person. I love him to death. I have nothing negative to say. I love his attitude. I love the way he is. The guy is lightning quick, but he has no secondary moves. It's bull rush or nothing.
Well, he doesn't. Yaya doesn't. I'm not trying to be funny. If you look at it, he's stiff in the hips.
Oh yeah.
So his bend and his move, if it's not there with that power to beat you the one time, he has a hard time redirecting it to a second move. And there's nothing wrong with that, but you just have to win that first time. And then some of the things they asked him to do with dropping him sometimes, I wasn't a fan of that either, but that's neither here nor there. So, like I said, I think variety and being able to do different things. And then if you want to go more pass rush specific, you can move Yaya inside and have Walker and Bain on the outside in that defense. And it gives you a couple of different metrics and things that you can do to enhance that pass rush presence.
I think if you set him more stunts inside, get him on a smaller guard, you can overpass him with bull rush and stuff like that.
Yeah, because he's a big physical edge. Like he's very big, he's very strong. So yeah, that could be another good one as well. And then a person that we hadn't talked about yet, but you know, the one person that makes me nervous is because he hasn't really been available. That's Kalijah Kancey.
Can't stay on the field. That's his biggest problem.
Is he going to be able to do what he was drafted to do, as far as like just be healthy and be available? Because I think we're still yet to see what he's going to do if he can play an entire season. Now, we saw the glimpses of it. Like I said, don't get me wrong. I love Kalijah Kancey, but I honestly think that's another piece too that if he's healthy, I think it's a game changer as well to what the Buccaneers will be able to do with other pieces on that front.
Absolutely. That can't make the club in the tub.
Best ability is availability.
Yeah, that's the question mark. And nobody has a crystal ball to see if it happens. But if that happens, that's just another added piece to that. That's why I didn't even mention. I know you brought it up. It's like we didn't even talk about it. I'd be like, he hasn't been around, so I don't have much to say. It's all on him, and I think he's in a contract year too. I believe it's year 5 for him, right? I believe so. Has time gone by that quick?
No, he and Yaya are in the same year.
Yeah, so they both contract years.
So year 4, it should be 4 with the restricted year, right? Okay. Yeah, I mean he's got to get it done, man, and I think he can. I just want him to be healthy. I want to see the person I was excited about when they drafted him, because I'm not gonna lie to you. I was really excited.
We talked about that.
Yeah, we did. We've talked about it a lot, man. So
we're talking about his stunts and loops and stuff like that. But he's another guy like Yaya. If they get ahead of steam, they're trouble, and all that. And that's funny. Nobody really talked about his arm length either when it came out. It's just funny how arm length in the NFL draft became a thing when Ruben Bain came out. I just thought it was the most funniest conversation I've ever heard in the NFL draft process ever. Yeah. That the first thing everybody mentioned was arm length, not the fact that he dominated the entire his college senior year and in the playoffs. That wasn't even the factor. It was the arm length. I just thought that was just funny as hell. I've never heard of that ever in a draft process. Now, I said on other reels, I said sometimes that's a technique to get people to drop. People do that. They make up bullshit stuff and get people out of focus because people take the bait. They take the cheese and let players drop.
Part of me thinks that's what happened with Bain, though. I think that was planted by somebody, and it could have held shit. It could have even been the Buccaneers because they wanted him to fall where he did. So I wouldn't be totally surprised, but I've heard it said, and I've talked to different people, and I've talked to some of my buddies that played offensive line, especially tackles, bigger guys, what they say. And the one thing most linemen will tell you, offensive linemen tell you, is sometimes it can be a disadvantage with guys with short arms, but if they know how to play the right leverage, the worst thing you want to do is let that person that's strong get into your body and you're not able to position and put your hands where you want them, then they can still make the pass rush moves that they want to. And like I said, that's what Freeney did very well, was setting you up the field, making you set out to him, and then hitting you with the spin back in. John Randall was killer with that spin move back inside, able to set it up with the speed. Yes, his arms weren't long, but he would get off the ball so fast, they would almost take you out. Your perfect technique, because you were so worried about chasing to get to him, to where he was able to play all four positions in that 4-man front with Minnesota, right? And I think that's what Bain will be able to do. They need to. They can stand him up. They can put him down, put his hand in the dirt. And I think he's going to play well. Like I said, we're going to see. And it's only two ways his narrative is going to play out. He's going to prove a lot of people wrong, or a couple bad pass rushes, and then all the naysayers and the haters are going to come back and say, I told you his arms are too short. But I don't think that's going to be an issue watching how he played in Miami over not just last year, but, you look back years before too, and what he was able to do. And it was like, he did it against him. He performed well against a good competition. So.
Yeah, and that's what I said before. I said, you think these college offensive linemen don't have the same intangibles that the pros have? The same arm length, same body styles. I mean, it's really going to be up to him.
They said those guys at Texas. Remember when they played Texas A&M? They said how difficult that was going to be for him against this pro-style offensive line, and
how that turned out.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it's up to him. I think a lot of it's him being aggressive. And that's what it's going to come down to. Now, the only question I would ask with Bain is how long he can play like that, being aggressive and stuff like that with those intangibles, everybody else. But that's a conversation we'll have years down the line. But right now, he's young, hungry, playing these 5 years to get paid later on. So it's a lot to play for in these first 5 years. So, that's pretty much it. We got position battles. Oh, Jeremiah Trotter's been all over the place too. They talking about Josiah. Excuse me, it's a Jeremiah. Josiah.
It's easy to say that, man. It's easy to call him his dad real quick, man. But That's another piece I was interested in seeing. Like, I haven't really followed that much him that much in camp because I was really been looking at David Walker and Ted Hurst, and then also Bucky, our running back position. And I heard Gainwell's having a good camp right now too to create that 2 running back depth. But Trotter, I think, is still in a good position to where he's learning. He come in, and Alex Anzalone was a good pickup in Detroit to kind of be that guy while Trotter develops to see if he turns out to be the player that he was at Mizzou. So that's good to hear that he's playing well and that he's doing good.
Yep, so he's doing well, communication well, being physical, making plays. We'll see how that's one of the spots people are going to be watching.
Yeah.
Come the Jets preseason game. Well, basically it's just live scrimmage. That's all this. Yeah. That's all that is.
Yep.
Live scrimmage. Guy who's got to be on watching his ass is Savante Dennis. The guy I was high on early before he took that injury 2 years ago to the Eagles and went on IR. And then what same kind of sense he had a chance to secure a spot this year, but right now, like he's like the outside man looking in. Unless otherwise happens, I don't know. We'll see. Only time will tell. These preseason games are going to speak a lot, especially at certain positions. I encourage you people not to look at the game as far as scores are concerned. I could care less what the scores are. I care about people not getting hurt and people winning their one-on-one matchup. That's what I'm going to be looking at. Looking at all different types of position battles and seeing how they turn out.
Yeah, because the one guy that a lot of people, I haven't heard his name, but I know he's always been solid and he was good with Carolina. Christian Rosenblum, I haven't heard anything bad or anything. Just kind of flying quiet under the radar right now. So we'll see how those pieces come in place.
J.J. Roberts is another name, guy that Bucs really loved last year and went on IR.
Okay.
Another name to look out for, J.J. Roberts, the safety. It's another name to be looking out for. So that's what I got, James. What you got? Any final thoughts?
No, that's it, man. Tampa Bay Buccaneer fans, thank y'all for coming in and letting me talk a little smack and state my piece about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I always say that we're in a good position because of the conference. I mean, the division that we're in. I kind of like that people are starting to count the Buccaneers out already because I think it'll be a different situation this year with some of the pieces that they put, that they drafted, and some of the different pieces we picked up in free agency. So I'm excited about this season. I just want Vita Vea to get taken care of. Y'all find a way. I need to see big man on the field this year. I need to see him plug in the middle and making things done. We talk about good pass rush for the secondary. With him collapsing that pocket, I feel a whole lot better.
Yep, him coming back, man. They got to have him back, man. He is the cog to that defense, man. It's hard to replace that kind of skill set and that kind of ability. Hard to replace.
Yeah.
That's what I got, everybody. That's what James got. I'm Blake Anthony. This is the great James Cannida. You're the master of everything. What you do with your life, what you do is entirely up to you. See you guys next time. Make sure to follow James. Oh, James, tell them all your stuff where you're at. I know you told them before.
Yeah, man, my bad. Make sure y'all can follow me at James Canada's Pewter Perspective. That's my Buccaneers Shorts channel. BGSC Network is where I drop my full content on my sports variety show with my partner, the Buff Nerd. And yeah, man, that's it. We just get on there. We talk a whole lot of trash about a whole lot of different sports, man, and drop reels every now and then, trying to shake it up and get in the comments, get in those debates, and let us know what you think. Like, subscribe, and share with somebody you love.
Facts. See you guys next time. Peace.
Yeah. Welcome to the block, where the real ones speak. Sports Talk 49, no cap, no weak. Real facts, strip the fluff, no spin. If it's hot in the league, yeah, we tap right in. Overreaction, yeah, we lean all in. One play, one take, let the chaos begin. From the mic to the screen, bringing truth, no fantasy. Hosted by Blake Anthony, voice of the fan, no fallacy. Fans yelling loud, opinions collide. Love it or hate it, ain't nowhere to hide. You're the master of life, how you use it is key. Sports Talk 49, now lock in with me, yeah.